no moderation tonight, unfortunately. So I'm gonna have to kind of double check on my iPad from time to time. But I just want to go quick for about an hour or so. And I've got a painting to make for a class, but it's a little dark out. So I brought my big light, but I gotta kind of tweak it here. I don't want it to be so bright that you can't see anything, but I am gonna bring you a little closer so that we can see everything good. Give me 2 seconds. Maybe right here. What do we think about that? That looks pretty good, right? So I've got a class for my friend Mike. He his birthday's coming up, and he has booked a painting class, but he wants something new, something original, and so that's what I'm going to make today. And so you can't really see it, but I've got drawn on here just a little bit of stuff. And so he wants something kind of sunsetty and mangrove. Those are the two kind of stipulations that he gave me. And so that's what I'm going to give him. Let me tweak this light a little bit more. It's a little bright still. Yeah, that feels good. So say hi when you come in. I'm going to work away at it. Actually, how about I be right back? Can you even see that? There we go. Be right back. I wish there was a way that I could flip this around, but there isn't. But what I can do is now I can turn you here and flip you this way. At least it says the right thing now. All right, I gotta get a charger for my iPad and then we can get started. All right, found a good charger for the iPad. That way I can see your comments. And then we can get the painting going. This is fine though. It gives you guys time to come in. If anybody's gonna watch, they can come say hi. here. Here's a good plug, and plugged in the iPad. Maybe. All right, there we go. Nope. These damn chargers, they're killing me, man. Bingo. All right. So I'm going to back you up a little, and then we can get started. So like I said, this is a mangrove kind of look, what we're going for. And so I can do that first, but before I do any mangrovey things, let's cover up the sky, shall we? We'll start from back to front. I do have a reference photo, but it's not much of one. So I'm just going to leave it off to the side here, and we'll pull it out if I need it, but I don't think I will. But to start with the sky, we are going to go with a little white here and poke some yellow into that. So like I said, Mike said he wanted something kind of sunset-y. And so that's what we're going to give him. I'm ignoring my lines that I drew in for the trees right now because I don't want them to interfere with everything else I've got going on. See, I'm very soft. This is not very firm colors, not very dark or saturated, but that's okay for now. Say hi if you're just joining me. Let me know who's here. But something that I liked about kind of the reference that I found was that there was a lot of cloud cover. Well, not a lot of cloud cover, but there was some interesting cloud cover. And so it gives me an opportunity to try some stuff that I have not done before. But we've got yellow into red, and then the sky gets a little white, and then we kind of get into blue up top here. So that's what we're going to be doing. These are new paints to me. I just got these paints the other day, and so this is kind of not an experiment, but this is a start of a feeling out process, see if I like these paints or not. So far they're seeming to go down pretty nicely. And most importantly, I liked the price. They weren't too expensive, and there's a lot of them. I got like 15 colors or something, so that's really nice. As you can see right now, I'm not too concerned with total coverage. I'm just trying to get color down so that I can work on layers. I think that's a little too dark there. That's nicer. I'm going to add some darkness up here. Okay, so that's kind of a good start there. Good first little rough area. And so I can keep working that in. I'm going to go back down here into my white and throw some yellow on top of that to build this back up. All right, that looks pretty good. Just got to keep in mind that the sky is a little different every night, so there's no right or wrong way to do this. As long as I get roughly the right colors in roughly the right areas, there's nothing for me to really be too concerned about when it comes to making a sunset. So let's talk about these clouds. The clouds are kind of a dark blue, and they're not quite as vibrant as this blue that I've got. So what I can do is I can mix some of my red with the blue, and it's going to kind of cancel out some of that vibrantness, vibrance, and I can come through here now and put in, you see it makes a purple, but it's not a super bright purple. And that's exactly what I want here. And so we're going to add some cloud shapes in here. I'm trying to keep it fairly horizontal because these are really far away, but I want them to be, random. It's okay if my colors aren't perfectly mixed together on my brush. Not a problem. Looking at my reference, kind of going back and forth between the two. And so as these will get closer to the sun, they'll get brighter. So when I've got this dark color here, I just want to stay up in the top area away from my reds. Cool, cool. And we're going to do a little bit more back here. I got a nice big section that covers a lot. Okay, so like I said, I want a lighter bit down here. And so what I'm going to do is as the sun affects things, if you want something to get lighter and more glowy, it gets closer to yellow. And so in order to get this blue closer to yellow, I've got to turn it into red first. And so I've just got a little purple here. And maybe I'll add a little bit of white. Yeah. And you see how just that little change there, it's not doing a whole hell of a lot, but it's just making it appear like it's got sun glowing through it. And that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Okay. Now I'm going to go in with a clean brush and I'm going to soften some of these parts up here. So my brush is clean and dry, and some of these edges are a little too hard for me. So I'm just going to hit them with my clean, dry brush, and that's going to blend them out a little bit so they're not as stark. I don't like stark. Kind of almost a dab like this. Just flick upwards. Just so I can soften these edges a little. Can you tell that difference? I think you can. I certainly can. I hope it's coming through on camera. Yeah, cool. So there is my background. I think that's going to work for me. That's all I really need for a background here. Maybe, if anything, just a little bit more. And that's another way I can soften these up, is just by poking it with my finger a little. Okay. I'll have plenty of time to tweak later, so that'll do it for now for me. And then when we look at the sky here, not the sky, the water, it's going to be, water's reflective, but there's not a really bright light source here in this painting. And so I don't want it to be too reflective. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to mix up a light blue. We're going to go pretty light with this blue. And I'm going to throw it in here. Try to keep my line straight across. Okay. And so right now, I just want to take this blue and bring it all the way to the bottom. There's no shore in this painting. We're out in the water. So I'm going to go ahead and pull my water as far down as I need to, which is all the way down. And once again, there's going to be trees here blocking a lot of this, but they're not here yet. And so I got to paint like they're not here. So I don't want to have spots where you can see the canvas through later. And so we're just going to pull this color all the way down. If anything, when I get a little closer down here, it's going to be just a touch darker. Even that might be too much. I'm going to go. Everything is going to get blue right now. And this is a good kind of time when I'm thinking about making one of these classes. This is a good step to have where I can say, okay, just do this for a little bit, because then I can bust through it really quickly, and it'll give me an opportunity to be able to walk around and check on people and see how it's going and help anybody that needs help. Or if we have anybody who was here late, which happens from time to time, I can catch them up to speed. And so if you notice, I'm getting kind of dry here. You see how you can see the canvas through there? And the easiest way to fix that is to just make my brush a little bit more wet by dipping it in my water cup. I don't care for this to be perfectly smooth or anything. The only thing that I'm really focusing on here is horizontal strokes. We're not painting a waterfall. We're painting the ocean, and it's going side to side. Ooh, looks like there's a little red on my brush there. That's okay. Not a problem. And so you see, these are not mixed colors. Like, I'm doing very minimal mixing on my palette itself, or my little fancy paper plate. I'm just kind of picking up some blue and some white on my brush. If you can see that, I don't know how well that's going to show up on camera. And I'll mix them on the canvas itself. Okay, so I want to make my gradient a little bit more obvious here. So what I'm going to do is down on my lower section, I'm going to add more blue. And this blue is closer to purple than it is to green. This is an ultramarine blue. And I'm not in love with this color for the water. I think it should be a little more green. And so something I can do to fix that is just the littlest bit of yellow in here. There's not very much of it, but it's going to bring the warmth of that color up a little bit for me. Make it look a little more like an ocean water. I'm also going to add some more white up top. Same reason. I want to make my gradient more obvious. Okay, so now the way we make this look like water is we're going to add in some reflections and some shadows of these waves. So I'm going to stick with this brush and I'm going to go into my blue and a little bit of my red, just like I did for the clouds. I want to make a nice dark blue color. And I can come in here horizontal like this, not vertical, horizontal, and I can do this. Little strokes like that. A little bit of a smiley face to them. And I don't have to do anything crazy. I don't have to go out of my way to be super consistent with size and positioning. I'm going to let the brush kind of dictate what goes where, and we'll kind of work with it as we go. Especially under these clouds, that's going to reflect, and we're going to see that. What you see, since my paint is still pretty wet, it's helping me a lot. And as I get closer to myself, I'm going to be looking at these less from the side and more from the top. And so I can indicate that by getting deeper with my smiles. Okay, and now I told you I was going to be doing highlighting as well. So I can come in now with a highlight color, meaning like this bright light sky color. So a lot of white and very minimal blue. And I can find the areas that are above these shadows and I can lighten them to give myself the look of these waves. And the water reflections above them. And so up here, you're not really going to see that as much. You're just going to see the shadows. But down here, we're going to get some nice reflections. Once again, I'm just making these same little shapes, little smiley shapes. They're a little deeper down here. But the water is not going to be the primary focal point for this painting. And so I just have to make it pretty good. And I can let the rest of it be carried by the focal point, which is going to be our two trees that we've got in here. And so I'd say that's pretty good. If anything, next time I'll make the water darker so that my white highlights show up better. But that's for next time. So now that we've got kind of this base down, it's time to start doing things in the foreground. And so in order to do that, I first have to clean off my brush. And now we got to start doing a little bit of thinking. And so I'm going to grab out my medium round brush. So I was using my large flat brush. Now I'm going to grab my medium round brush. And this is just going to help me to get some slightly finer detail without being so small that it's going to be annoying as hell to try to use. And so what I want to do here is start to indicate these mangrove trees. And so I'm going to start with the one that's slightly further away. And because the light source from this painting is back here, these mangroves in the front are going to be fairly dark, almost silhouetted. And so I can start with basically just black and maybe a little bit of red and yellow to give me kind of a really dark brown. I could obviously also just get a brown, but I wanted to try to limit my colors on my palette here. And the way mangrove trees grow is there's the main body of the tree, okay? And so this now will branch off into a tree. In order to make this flow nicely, I've got to add some water to my brush. So this now branches off, and it becomes a tree. And we're going to put in all kinds of leaves and fun stuff on this guy. But then where it meets the water, it doesn't just end here. It actually sends out feelers like this that sit down inside the water. And they have little drops coming off of them. And we just want the inside to be not crazy or anything, but we want it to be interesting so that it makes for a good painting. And so I think that's pretty good. We'll put some of these further down so it looks like they're coming forward, right? And so this guy will have shadows underneath him, but we'll worry about that later. And then we'll do the same thing for our foreground tree. He's going to be a little bigger. And so I've got, here's where my kind of center of the body is going to be. And then we'll get some big roots coming down here. And the thing that I liked about this one is he had a nice big root that came out like that toward the front of the painting. And so I'm going to add that here. Just whenever I need to re-up on my paint, I can dip it back in my water and put it into some more black and some more brown. And we're going to add a ton of these roots in here. Okay. And now I'm gonna start to put some of the branches on the top side as well. And these ones are not as visible, obviously, because they're covered in leaves, but we can still put them just so we know kind of what's going on here. Okay. And so in order to make these guys feel like they're actually sitting in the water, one of the things I'm going to do is take my brush and with these little swipes, horizontal, like I did the water, I'm going to add in a shadow of the tree underneath itself. So like where this guy meets, so we're going to lose a lot of information in here, but that's okay. Because when we look at this, we're going to look at it as a whole painting. We're not going to look at this as each of these dudes that I'm putting on here. And so I don't mind if we lose a little bit of information. And so I'm going to kind of copy these shapes roughly. So you see how we've got, it's basically supposed to look like the reflection of our tree. And so I can do the same thing here. But obviously it's going to be a little smaller and less detailed back there. And so I can come in later as well and do some more work to this by adding in some more white highlights. So I'm kind of playing back and forth with shadows and highlights. And I'm just gonna, not fill it perfectly, but fill it partially. Okay, I'm gonna make a bit of a highlight color for these branches just by mixing red, yellow, white, and black. Sorry, I bumped my mic there. I'm just gonna highlight a couple of these branches. You can tell it's not much different than what's already there. Just different enough that some of these will stick out to us just a tad. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and add some leaves in here. And so the easiest way to do this is to not think about it and just go. And so what I'm going to do is take my green and add some black to that. It's going to pull it down, but I also want to give it some yellow so that we don't lose all of the saturation of our color. Because black could easily turn my green into like a blue looking color, and so I'm trying to avoid that. So let's go ahead here. So I'm going, see, I'm not being super precise or careful. I'm just kind of almost random craziness here. Ketchup, yo, that looks really good. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't know how long ago you commented that. I just looked down, but thank you. I appreciate that. Thanks for tuning in, Ketchup. Always good to see you or hear from you. And I know I'm covering up all that work that I just did, but that's the point, you know? Like I'm not worried about it. Okay. Let's do the same thing with this guy. You see how dark this color is. That's fine with me because I can come back later with a lighter green and lighten it up a bunch. It's easier to put a light color on top of a dark color. When you're layering like this, it'll show better for you. Almost just like random twitching, and I'm always rolling the brush between my fingers, if you can kind of see that. I don't know how well that comes across on video, but it's just to give me the randomness that I'm looking for. And so I'm going to try to start by staying attached to these branches, and then once I've got those kind of filled, then I can bridge the gaps. I'm going to take my reference photo here and pull it up next to me just so I can see a little better. And so this guy being in the foreground, I've got bigger strokes here. You know what I even want to do? We're going to do a branch that's coming like right up in front of me, like this. So I can have real big leaves on this branch here. And you see I painted that behind section first just so that I could have something to show through these leaves so that I don't have to worry about them having white poke through them. I can at least have the background color poke through. Okay, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. So obviously we're not finished yet, but that's a really good spot for me to kind of get to here because now we get to have all the fun. And so I'm going to start by adding some highlights to my leaves because that'll be the most immediate change. And so I'm going in with yellow and a little bit of green, and we can do, you know, some of the areas of my leaves that are really dark and hard to discern. We can add some little leaf highlights there. You know, that's not a crazy change, but it's enough of one that it makes it interesting. And some of these leaves that are up close, we'll do the same thing for. I want to kind of keep it on the edges. I don't want it to do the main body because the edges of my limbs of my tree is going to be where the light catches the most because there's nothing behind that to shadow it or block it off. Same thing with this guy here. I can add some little highlights, maybe a little bit to the front. Okay, and so now let's do some more reflections. We can use these colors now. We can reflect these colors from our leaves into the water. And so you can see I'm not being particular. I'm just going with the flow here. Little right to left, left to right, nothing crazy. We just want it to look like our tree is reflected in the water. And I can pull this right to left, like I said, with my brush. And that's gonna soften all my edges, make it look like a water reflection. Okay, see what we're going for here? I'll do the same thing down here. We'll have some leaf reflections. I want another branch here, and so I'm gonna add a few leaves, wipe some of that green off, and oh, that's not good. I splattered some paint down here. That's okay, we can get it fixed. All right, so let's add some green, like I said, to our reflection down here. And we'll just put some yellow up in here. I'm kind of bouncing around a lot, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. How many trees am I going to add total? I think just these two. I might do, so if you watched my video, I think I titled it Cool Critters, where I painted the tortoise. I like teaching people things. It's one of the things I really enjoy doing. And one of the ways I can do that is by adding things that are interesting to me to my paintings. And so one of the things I think is pretty interesting is the life cycle of these trees. And so maybe I will add kind of the pups of the mangrove. I forget what they're actually called, but the little floaters. You can see I'm not being crazy careful or anything like that. One thing I do want to do here, clean my brush off a little, and with a clean brush, I'm going to come in here and disturb this a little more. Same thing down here. Disturb this a little bit. So I haven't added the reflections yet. We're still doing the shadows. So I'm going to come in here and add reflections to show you where these trees stop and start. And so that'll be a fun thing we can do in a second here once that all dries. I think I want a little more from these clouds. Like I want to bring them a little lower. And so once again, I got to get closer to red or closer to yellow. So they look like they're glowing. So pretty much just red here, but I think that looks really cool. As they get further away, they get shorter, like height. They get lower down. Just the way perspective works with the clouds. And so that's pretty good to me. I'm happy with that. So let's go ahead and add some highlights under these trees. Oh yeah, let's add a little pup in here. So the way that these guys grow is they've got the little dudes that float, and then they land somewhere and they start tossing roots down like this. But when they're young, that's all they look like, just that sitting out of the water, which is pretty funny to me. So we can add one of those in there. Okay. So there's 2.5 trees. That's gonna be a tree one day, just not yet. So now I'm gonna go in with my white, and I can come through here and put little drops, not drops, but little dashes of white in here where the tree is hitting the water. Same thing here. So like that's where he's meeting the water. That's where he meets the water. That's where this guy meets the water. And so I'm just giving myself little tiny highlights down there. Don't have to do all of them, but some of them. And that will help me with a little more definition in here. Because these highlights will also work for me here too. I can break up some of my really thick spots of color with a bit of a highlight. One of my favorite things to do when I'm painting trees is to come back in after I've painted all the leaves in and get a nice sky color, and then dot in some sky colored highlights in between the leaves. Just gives the whole thing more cohesive look. So like down here the sky's yellow, so I can make myself a really light yellow, and that'll just kind of make it look like there's gaps in the leaves in the tree. Cool. And so I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting. So when you have a light source behind an object, the edges of that object catch the most light. And that gives it what's called a rim light effect. And so these sections here, I can add some very bright white to, and they'll appear to be lit from behind, which is a wonderful effect. So like here, I can do it. You can even add a little bit of yellow because these leaves will be kind of see-through right here. All right. So now the painting's like 90% done. So I can step back and give it a look. see what I think, decide if I want to do more or not. I'm going to step back. I'm going to let you guys step back too. So you're going to come back here with me real quick. So while we look, I'm squinting my eyes, right? I'm doing my squint test. I'm going to lower this guy's brightness down so that you can see it better. Oh, well, we're going to do one of those numbers then. So you may not even be able to see that now. Yeah, you can kind of see it. I'm just trying to avoid the glare. So looking at it, I think I need some more dark shadows in this bottom corner here, and maybe a little bit of darkness in the middle. So that's what I'm going to do. So let's move you back over here so you can see what's going on. Yep, so I want some more darkness here. And so I'm going to take my big brush, go in with my blue. We'll just start with the blue and see if that does what I want. Remember, I'm just little smile shapes. I can add some of them in here. Break up my plants. So like I said, I probably would have done the darker water the next time. So I'm kind of giving myself a chance to do a darker water here now as well. But now it's harder to do because I have things to avoid. I'm going to mix a little of a dark purple just for down here in the very corner. What this is giving me is a bit of what's called a vignette. So if you're always trying to keep the focus of your painting toward the center. And so if you make your corners dark, it'll pull the focus into the middle, which is kind of what we're looking for here. And so that's what I'm doing. So let me back up again. That's a lot better. So now that that's really dark, I'm going to add a couple very bright highlights in there. So back to my medium-sized brush. Pretty wet, not dripping, but good bit of water so it flows nicely. I'm going to just go in like this. Add little highlights here. We'll follow the wave shape. All right, we're on the crest of these waves. Okay, I think that's gonna do it for me. Let me give it another look-see, and we'll see what I think. Add some more dark in here, maybe. Yep. And then same thing. We'll go in with some white wave tops. You see, we're at this stage now where we're just kind of playing with pushing and pulling, lights and darks, and changing things and tweaking and backing up and always checking and seeing if we like what we've just done. So once again, I'm going to back up. And I've also got to keep in mind that this is a class, right? So I've been working for, what, about an hour maybe? Yeah, I've been going for 56 minutes. So when I teach this to somebody, it's going to take twice as long at least. So I got to keep in mind I want to keep it in a reasonable time frame as well. So I'm losing the reflection of my mangrove in the back. So I'm going to darken that up and then we'll call it there. So I'm just going to go in with black mostly so I can darken this guy up a little. Okay, that's a lot better. And I want to give more darkness underneath my other mangrove as well. I think I have not conveyed how dense this guy is. And so we can come in here and cover up even more of the blue. All right, because there's going to be some sun getting through back here, but not so much down here. Same thing with this guy. I can make him really long just for fun. Okay. Okay, squint test again. Yeah, I'd say that's good. So I'm going to call it there. Hopefully Mike enjoys this. We're using reference or just drawing. So I did have kind of a photo reference, but it wasn't anything special. It was just kind of something to look at, just so I had an idea of generally what I wanted, but it wasn't really a good reference or anything like that. That's why I haven't been showing it, because it's just some random photo. So I'm going to sign this down here. When will my class be? So this class is going to be the final day of the month. The guy who cuts my hair, his birthday is that day, and he's going to do a charity event in downtown Fort Myers. Not Fort Myers, and kind of not downtown either, off of Del Prado in the Cape. And we're going to be, selling some seating, some classes for people can purchase a class and enjoy and paint this along with me. And a portion of all the proceeds that we make from the classes that we do, we're going to be donating to a charity for children with diabetes, I believe. I may be wrong there, but I think I'm correct. I'm pretty sure Mike said it's open to the public, and so maybe I will get that information for you really quickly. See if I can find it fast. I gotta let this corner dry anyway. So just logging into my Facebook real quick. He made a Facebook event. Yeah, it's not gonna work for me. But we're gonna have an event toward the end of the month. It'll be the final day of the month, and I'll post about it as I get a little closer. Now that I've got the painting, hopefully, if Mike likes it, this will be the painting that we do, and I will be posting about it for basically the rest of the month. So once again, down here is our painting. So I'm gonna let this dry. And that's where I'm gonna sign. Just gotta give it a couple more minutes to dry. The problem with doing these outside is they don't always dry as quickly as you'd like them to. And so when you see me touching it like that, I'm just kind of blending it together with my fingers and kind of picking up the really, really bad stuff. Looks like we got a new person in. My numbers of viewers just went up, so I'll back up and show you what this is. I just finished this. We're waiting on that bottom corner to dry so that I can sign it. Happy to answer any questions that we may have. Taking requests in the future. I recently did a video this week where I painted an animal that I found interesting and kind of taught you about it and read some fun facts. I think I'm going to call the series Cool Critters. But if you guys know of any cool animals that you'd like me to do a video about, let me know, because I can always use the help, and that'll be really nice to have, viewer animals as well. So while I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about signing this, and I pulled a black pen out, but I think it's going to look better in a white pen. And so I'm actually going to run inside and grab a white pen. But I'll take my iPad in with me so you can leave any comments or questions and I'll still be able to read them. I think the mic will catch me all the way inside. So I'm going to run inside really quickly, grab a white pen. You'd think I'd be prepared, but I never am. Grab this white pen. I'm also going to grab a white paint marker as well, just in case the pen doesn't want to work for me. When will my next live stream on the fish be? I don't know. I can do that. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to be painting a window. I think I'm going to live stream that tomorrow morning. And then maybe next Sunday, I can go back to the fish. So I'm always looking for suggestions for those as well. Hopefully you can still hear me. I'm coming back out now, so if you couldn't hear me. Okay, I'm back outside now. Hopefully you could hear me talking while I was in there. If you couldn't, no big deal. Catch up on my next live stream be with the fish. Tomorrow I will be streaming me painting a window at the nail salon that I've done a couple times. But maybe next Sunday I can do some more on that fish guy. But let's see here. I think this is about ready to go. So I'm going to try with my pen first, and we'll see if it likes to do it. Yeah, nope, didn't think so. Paint's not quite dry enough for that. So I've got my Posca marker. Man, this guy doesn't like the paint either. I'm still just a little too wet, I guess. It's so annoying. I want to sign it. I gotta let it dry more. Dang it. It's pretty dry to the touch, but not dry enough for my markers, apparently. Okay, try this again. So funny. Some of it's okay, some of it's not. But that'll be good enough. So let's back up and check it out again. There is the finished piece. Took me 1 hour and 8 minutes, give or take. You know, I had to do some running around. So I think about 1 hour exactly is what that took me. So that'll be the finished piece. Once again, I'll be teaching this at the end of the month on the 30th at a charity event with my buddy Mike, who does my hair. It will be open to the public, but I'm not sure. It's his birthday, so I'm not sure if like it's open to the public. But I'll talk with him. I'm going to send him this photo and make sure that he likes this, and then we'll call it good. One thing I want to do here. So while I'm looking at it, I don't like how empty this is here. So I'm going to pull this branch out a little bit more. Okay, like that. And then I can come in here and put some more leaves down. Okay, and we'll add some yellows toward the top here. Nice, nice, nice. Okay. That should do it for today. I'll call it there. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me get to a spot where you can see me and the painting. So yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate the view. If you hung out with me today, thanks for hanging out. This VOD will go up pretty soon, so if you wanted to go back and watch my whole process here, you can certainly do that. If you're tuning in late, not a problem. Yeah, so hopefully Mike, my client that I'm working with, enjoys this painting for his class. And once again, I'll be doing it on the 30th of this month. So should be fun. This was a fun one to make. I've never painted mangroves above the water before. I've only ever painted like one time. I painted a snook swimming through the mangroves when they were already like the underwater version. So this was a fun experience for me. and I got to try some new stuff with the clouds. I think it turned out pretty well. I will get you guys focused back on this for a second, and I'm going to be out of here. So don't forget to hit the like and the subscribe if you did enjoy, and ring that bell so you're notified whenever I go live and whenever I post a new video. Also, feel free to scroll around on my channel, check out some of my other videos. I do things like this. I do small tutorials. I just did a tutorial yesterday where I painted a really super simple snowman watercolor. And so if you're kind of a beginner artist, that's a great video to start, and you can learn how to make that, and it makes for a wonderful Christmas present. Or you could learn it and you could try to teach it to your family for Christmas as well. I've done that before. I see another comment. Ketchup, doing that in an hour is crazy for how good it looks. Thank you. I appreciate that. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. You know, my goal here is not to be making perfect picture. It's making as good of a picture as I can in a certain amount of time. And so for an hour, I'm happy with the results here. And I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you guys once again for watching. Like, subscribe, share with your friends, all that good stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next one. I'll put you here so you can check that out while I'm cleaning up. And then we'll get the hell out of here. Oh, here, you know what's fun? Let's do this real quick. So I don't want to throw away big globs of things. So I've got my paint here. Hopefully that shows up on camera good. And I'm going to wipe it away, and it's always fun for me. So let's do that. Isn't that fun? It's my favorite part of the painting, making a mess when I'm finished. All right, I'm gonna toss this, clean up, and I'm all done. So thank you guys for tuning in. I'll leave you running for a minute just so I can get any goodbyes that I have left going, and I'll be out of your hair. Ketchup, what paint do you use? I'm using just basic acrylic paint. I just bought this on Amazon. You don't have to buy this much stuff, but this is just some Amazon brand. Big acrylic tubs of paint. I get a lot of them. So I've got like 15 different colors, and you don't need that many. You know, you can get away with just a handful and make really good paintings still. So you can find it. It doesn't have to be expensive stuff. You know, it can be cheap stuff. The quality of the paint matters if you're making big money commissions. You want to last forever. But for practice and things like this, you don't need expensive paint. The art is only as good as the artist and not the materials. So you don't have to go out of your way to buy super expensive stuff. That's a waste of money, especially if you're a beginner. All right. I'm going to get out of here, catch up. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I'll leave it for a minute so you can say bye back, and then we'll finish up the stream here. Once again, this will go live on my YouTube channel, so if you wanted to watch it back, you could probably follow along if you wanted to. I explained it pretty well. Yep, have a good night, buddy.